Yep.
Yep, cool. Okay, so part versus whole learning. So this is a skill learning principle that you can use. We are all using it in both programs. We've got in the basketball shot and also in the football shot, there is definitely PoL and part learning. But I'm just going to show you how it applies. So when we were doing the juggling just then, who found that they had to concentrate quite hard?
Yep.
Cool, yes, awesome. Who found that there was quite a few errors, like it wasn't smooth? Yep, cool. So you could probably say you're a cognitive learner for that particular skill. Is that fair to say? Yep. And partly, some of you might have been finding it hard to identify your errors. All right. So, what type of learning though were we using when we were doing that just then?
Whole learning.
Whole learning, cool. So we were doing the whole skill. I just basically demonstrated it a couple of times and told you to go and do it. So you were using whole learning, all right? Now, you also were using feedback, all right? What type of feedback were you kind of using?
Internal.
Could be internal, yep. So how it felt, all right? What other type of feedback were you using?
All of the first.
Could be visual, yep. Seeing that it wasn't, that the ball was dropping on the ground, yep. All right. If the ball keeps dropping on the ground and you couldn't keep the balls up in the air, what type of, was it knowledge or results or performance?
Performance.
Knowledge of?
Performance.
Knowledge of results, okay? Because the end result of the actual skill was that the ball was falling down, all right? So, going back to that, if I gave you another couple of sessions to practice your juggling, what might you do? What might you do to find out what you're doing wrong?
Research.
Could research it, cool, so find the perfect technique. Then what might you do? Think back to what we did with the, right at the beginning of...
Find your errors.
Yeah, find errors. How did we find our errors?
Biomechanical.
Yeah, by videoing, so getting visual feedback, and then perhaps doing some biomechanical analysis of it. Then if you found your errors, what might you do? Focus on those errors by using?
Part learning.
Part learning, okay? So for example, a common error that I saw was you would throw the ball up in the air, the first one, the second one, and then the third one would go like this, and it would fall away from you like that, okay? That is there, an error around the way you're throwing the ball, okay? So instead of it cupping it back towards you, what's happening is you're throwing it away from you, and obviously then you're on the run, you're probably going to drop the ball. So you identify that error, and perhaps you would just work on that, where you're just scooping the ball up, okay? And making sure that it stays close to you. And that will be part learning, all right? So part learning might be better because, in this instance, because it decreases the attention demands, and it lets you work on one error at a time rather than trying to do it all at once. Make sense? Okay? So the last bit of this little video is how have we used, give me an example of how you used part learning in either of those two training programs, the basketball jump shot or the football kick.
Practice like arm movement.
Yep, arm movement, cool. So you just isolated that one movement out. Yep, cool. What about the football kick? Yep, cool. Through the ball, okay. So we all have started using part learning. Now, what you need to do today for your log is start to think about how you use part learning, whether it's useful for you, do you think? Whether it's not useful for you, how do you know? So bring in feedback, try and bring this in as well. So what you've got is biophysical BP 1, that's the biophysical principle 1 you're using, biophysical principle 2, which is whole and part learning, and biophysical principle 3. Remembering the more that you can bring in and interrelate, the more likely you're getting into that excellent zone. Yes? Okay, my job now, you get writing, I'll come round and I'll have a look. Thanks.